but we are going to get ready to welcome Joe Slaninka now as our next speaker. And Joe is going to be sharing about staying active with Spina Bifida. So again, if you're just joining us, if you're just attending our education day, we have everybody in seminar mode, and so you can't see each other, but you can see the people who are panelists. You'll be able to see Joe once he starts speaking. And if you have questions that come up during Joe's talk, we're going to do our best to try and address every single one of them. And if we don't get to address them, just like we did with Reese, we'll do a follow-up. We'll have our speakers talk about the questions that you have, and we'll send them in a follow-up email for everybody. So with that being said, I'm going to read you Joe's bio, and then we're just going to hand it right off to him. I understand they're at a tournament right now, so we'll also need to be filled in with that too. But Joe is a 50-year-old man with Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus. He is a board member for the Spina Bifida Association of Northeastern New York, and he's a staff member at the Henry Viscardi School. Joe is a wheelchair athlete, disability advocate, model, actor, certified scuba diver, and skydiver. Joe lives in Holbrook, Long Island currently, but I think is traveling somewhere else today. So Joe, why don't you go right ahead and take it away. Also, hi, Brian.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe. I am in Westfield, Massachusetts for a sled hockey tournament. So forgive me if you hear some noise in the background. Lots of games going on. While I was here, I ran into my friend Brian, so I asked him to join me. Today we're going to talk about wheelchair athletics, athletics for people with disabilities, and how it's changed my life, how it's changed Brian's life, and how it can change yours. To start off, I live on Long Island. I was born and bred in Long Island, and with Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus. Growing up as a kid, I always liked sports, but I was never able to play just because I had a disability, and there was back then not a lot of activities and leagues and access and opportunities for people with disabilities. Honestly, things really didn't shape up, turn around for me until I went to college. I went to Stony Brook University, where I met my first friend that had a disability, and she was at Stony Brook with a wheelchair basketball team, introducing that to the disabled students of Stony Brook. She handed me a basketball and said, "You know what? You have a disability, you use a wheelchair, so what? Let's play some basketball." And it has really changed my life. I was able to play a game that I never thought I'd be able to play. I was able to do a lot of traveling, different places to play wheelchair basketball. I got to meet a lot of different men and women, and kind of see how they dealt with their disability, in a daily life, whatever it was, and just kind of learn from them. And again, playing wheelchair ball, I got to play a great game, stay in shape, be active, have a social life. It was great, for me mentally. It was great for me physically. It showed me that even though I have a disability, people with disabilities can do a lot of things that quote unquote able-bodied people can do. Then I began working at the Henry Viscardi School, which is a school for children with disabilities on Long Island. And I was able to create a program and introduce wheelchair basketball to my students. students that are in grade, the school itself goes from kindergarten to 12th grade. The students that play basketball for me are in first grade through 12th grade. And again, it's an opportunity for these kids who didn't think they'd be able to play anything and whose parents didn't think they'd be able to see their disabled kid play anything. It changes lives. And I was able to, through wheelchair basketball, meet lots of different people, and they would introduce me to different games, whether it's tennis or softball or lacrosse or sled hockey, which we're playing this weekend. Wheelchair basketball has changed my life. You got anything to add?
Yeah, same thing for me. Having spina bifida obviously doesn't give you the opportunity to play a normal sport. So playing sled hockey with cool people like Joe and meeting other people that have spina bifida or other similar disabilities too, it's pretty cool. And then sometimes you get to go to the Empire State Games and your team wins a gold medal, which is what our team got to do this 2 years ago. So yeah.
Yep. As I got older, I realized how important physical fitness is for people with disabilities. The challenges that we face as people with spina bifida, medically, physically, athletics has definitely helped keep me in shape and keep me healthier than I might have been. It definitely keeps your eye towards a good diet and eating healthy and drinking your water. See, I have my water. Drinking your water, and it really just, if you want to be in top physical shape to play wheelchair athletics, you have to do what it takes to eat healthy and be healthy. So it's a win-win on both sides of the coin. You get to play games, and you can, quote unquote, kind of control what happens to you physically with your disability. The better you eat, the more you hydrate, the better you feel, and the better you can participate in daily life. So sports definitely gives you that upper hand to be an active part of society.
We do have one question, if you don't
Sure.
mind. How
Yep.
how did both of you get connected to these sports programs? And what agencies do you know that offer these types of programs so that you could suggest how people across the country might look for something similar?
Okay. A lot of the games that we play have national organizations that parent them. When I started playing wheelchair basketball, it was the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. For sled hockey, it's the United States Sled Hockey Association. The United States Tennis Association for tennis. The United States Wheelchair Lacrosse, the United States Wheelchair Softball. There are definitely, you can simply just Google any kind of sport, and wherever you live, I'm sure there is a community-based team that you can get connected with.
There's also Stride, which is a local chapter, Stride Adaptive Sports. That's where I play sled hockey with. So that's a great organization too.
Right. And again, through my experiences of playing different sports and meeting different people, I was also encouraged to become a certified scuba diver. I've jumped out of airplanes a couple of times, and I do adapted surfing on Long Island. So as far as any kind of activities for people with disabilities, if an able-bodied person can do it, we could do it. I see somebody said something about wheelchair tennis. Yes, wheelchair tennis is associated with the United States Tennis Association. On Long Island in Queens, we have the National Tennis Center. So we have a great program to learn wheelchair tennis from kids' ages all the way up. And again, all of these sports that we might be talking about can start at an early age. I've seen kids that are probably 8, 9, 10 years old nowadays that are starting to play. And one of my teammates here in the sled hockey, he's 72. So these are activities that, as long as you keep yourself in, good shape and you're healthy, you could play these games for a long, long time.
Yeah, I started playing sled hockey when I was in my senior year of high school. So.
Yeah, somebody said jumping out of an airplane, definitely on your bucket list. Definitely, you should definitely, who's that? Elizabeth Dunn. You should definitely do that. It's something that I didn't even realize I wanted to do or I needed to do. I was in Florida visiting family, and my cousin suggested that she wanted to throw me out of an airplane, and she knew somebody who could do just that. So I went with my cousin, and it was tandem jumping, because of my disability and the fact that my legs don't work very well. I had to be attached to a professional skydiver so he could land properly. And what they did is they actually tied my legs up in a way that when we're up in the air and we're landing, my legs didn't get tangled up in his legs. So as a person with a disability, where there's a will, there's a way. I happen to know a lot of crazy people that, allow me to do a lot of crazy things. And a lot of these things I do have to check with my doctors, obviously. I do have a VP shunt in my head. I was also born with hydrocephalus. So things with skydiving and scuba diving, pressure changes. I had definitely asked my neurosurgeon if it was something I should be considering. And he really said, yeah, why not? Go for it. He really didn't have a problem. And quite honestly, I've been scuba diving for about 20 years. Yeah, 20 years right now. I've skydove or skydived twice in my life. It is a bucket list thing sometimes. I've done it twice. I don't necessarily have to skydive again, but if anybody here wants to come to Long Island and skydive, let's go.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Julia said, if you get the time or if you want me to do it, if you and Brian could just list off all of the sports that you are currently participating in or have participated in the past, a comprehensive list would be great, just to kind of throw out there the options that people have.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, growing up with a disability, growing up with Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus, being a kid with it, not being able to do anything. When I met this friend at Stony Brook, I made myself a promise that if somebody came to me and said, hey, you should do this or you should do that or try this, I made a promise to myself that I would try, that I would not say no. It just so happens that everything I've done, I fall in love with, and I continue to do it. I met this person in college when I was 18. I'm 51. I'm still doing this stuff. Yes, I am a manual wheelchair user. Somebody asked.
I do have a question for you. Have
Sure.
you ever come up against just like a wall where you wanted to do something and you didn't know how to go about it, or you didn't know who to contact, or you were told no? And what did you do in that situation?
Fortunately, I gotta tell you, living on Long Island, living in New York, there's a lot of opportunities to do stuff. And there are great organizations. We have a great organization for wheelchair athletics called the Wheelchair Sports Foundation. So fortunately for me, those walls never existed. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was, a teenager, adolescent, it didn't exist. It just didn't exist. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, wheelchair basketball popped up. And that just opened up the world to everybody for everything. So when I was a kid, I didn't even know what I was missing because it wasn't available. But once I turned 18 and I met this woman at Stony Brook, get out of my way. But yeah, so fortunately for me, living on Long Island, that, wall that you're describing does not exist. There's always a way to do something. Where there's a will, there's a way. I was at the beach one day and I met this family of surfers, and they had an idea of teaching people with disabilities how to surf. I'll be a guinea pig. You know what? If you want to learn and you want to test things out on me, that's fine. That's great. I did the same thing with scuba diving. I met a man who was certified to teach people with disabilities how to scuba dive, but he was never able to meet somebody crazy enough to do it. It only takes one time for me to meet you before I figure out what you're about and what you could do for me and what you could teach me just to make my life better, right? And that's what wheelchair sports has done, has made my life so much better.
That's really awesome. So maybe Brian, you
yes,
can.
The Julia said so, Challenge Athletes Foundation. I am associated with them. They've done a lot of work with me at Viscardi to help get wheelchairs for my students, and they donated a chair to me.
So Brian, maybe you can speak a little bit about your experience since you've lived in a different area than Joe. Have you experienced as much accessibility to wheelchair sports, or how did you get associated with some of the things that you participated?
Yeah, so I used to also ski too, which was with Double H and Gore. I've skied at Wyndham. A lot of places I've skied at where you kind of get hooked up with an adaptive ski program. But I think the first place I skied at was Maple Ski Ridge. I don't even think they had an adaptive program back when I skied, but yeah, I haven't skied obviously since I've been playing hockey because the seasons kind of coincided. But like Joe, I've done the wheelchair tennis. Yeah. Trying to think of. I used to do challenger baseball. Yeah, it's definitely benefited me and kept me healthy, like Joe said, and
And it's not just like physically healthy; it's mentally healthy, psychologically healthy. Because as a person with a disability, spina bifida, or just in general, people with disabilities, you want to be active. Most people have, injuries that they acquire through accident or illness, and wheelchair athletics is a great way to get back into, quote unquote, the real world. We have spina bifida, we're congenital, we were born with this stuff. We didn't have too much of a choice, but wheelchair athletics gives us that opportunity to be as normal as we can be and enjoy life as much as we can and be active and get that sense of competition. Everybody has that sense of competition. Sometimes you can do something about it, sometimes people don't. This is a great way for us to, get that, sense of competition. Being out here, we're in the middle of, Massachusetts. There's probably 16 teams here playing sled hockey for an entire weekend. And just being around this type of environment, the men, the women, the game itself, it's a very uplifting experience, for the full body.
Yeah, being part of a team is pretty cool because, a lot of kids that, we grew up with, we're part of a team. And it's nice being part of a team.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is just being able to sort of get into that community too, where everybody's kind of engaging in that same active lifestyle, right? It probably encourages you to even keep that up.
Absolutely. The men and women that are here this weekend, they're here because they have a physical disability, and they became that way for many different reasons. But it keeps each of us going. If he could do it, I could do it. If she can do it, I could do it, right? That sense of team, that sense of camaraderie, sportsmanship. Again, a lot of the people that Brian and I come in contact with are acquired disabilities. So these people are coming from a world where, as an able-bodied person, they were able to do stuff. And now they're, physically challenged for some reason. But wheelchair athletics lets them get back into that world and have some sense of normalcy. Right.
That's
Oh, another
awesome.
sport I wanted to mention that Joe and I do is the hand cycling. I know.
Oh yeah, hand cycling. Get on a bike. I'm actually doing a 100-mile bike ride at the end of April. I'm going from DC to Gettysburg in a day in the name of U.S. veterans. That's one great thing about hand cycling. There's always an event, and it's always a charity. So it gives me an opportunity to help somebody else. This is an event that I did back in October. I wound up breaking my hand. So I'm all healed up. My bike is all fixed, and I'm ready to go.
Wow, you are.
So yeah, this 100-mile challenge that we're doing as a Spina Bifida Association, I guess I'll knock that out in one weekend.
Wow. Yep, you kind of are cheating the system there a little bit.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
One person just wants to know again where both of you are from and have lived in the past.
I'm a Long Island boy, born and bred. I live in Holbrook right now, which is in Suffolk County. I did grow up and spend most of my time in Nassau. I am currently in Suffolk. I'm trying to get back to Nassau, but Long Island, born and bred.
And I live in Scotia, New York.
And another person wanted to know that this is not necessarily just about sports, but how do you deal with the snow and how do you get around?
I hate snow. The hotter, the better. Long Island, fortunately, you know, we do get our bouts with snow, and it's a fight sometimes, quite honestly. You know, we can get 2 or 3 inches, or we can get, 6 feet. But it's a fight because the able-bodied world has to consider us, and how they shovel things, how they plow things, how they cover up walkways and ramps, parking spots, things like that. I'm in an area where last winter I had an argument with somebody that was dumping snow on handicapped parking spaces because, in his words, those people don't drive. Now, he just saw me get out of my car. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm talking to him, and he's telling me those people don't drive. So, yeah, that's the frustrating part.
Wow. Christy mentioned that she has a pair of wheelchair skis that attach to a regular chair that help her get around, and also has an action track chair that has treads on them similar to a snow machine, which has changed her life. She can go pretty much anywhere. That's incredible.
Yeah, I've been on those track chairs. It's like a tank. It's like a tank wheelchair. It's awesome. Goes over every kind of terrain. You can go over mountains, rocks, anything. You run stuff over.
Shamika said that she just hibernates. She doesn't go out in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, people with disabilities, if they don't get, the satisfaction of, the help that they need, and people with disabilities in general, the cold affects us. All right. So, yeah, people just hide for a couple of months and wait for spring.
Very wonderful. Yeah, it's really just all about resources too, right? If your city is not providing you with the resources to also make sure that you're able to get around.
Right. So you yourself have to be your best advocate for everything you do. You have a disability, you know what you can do, you know what you want to do, you know what you need to do. You need to have the courage to speak up for yourself, whether it's the guy plowing you in, or a doctor, or a nurse, or a pharmacist, whatever it is, or the person bagging your groceries. You know what's best for you, so you need to be your best advocate in everything we do, right? Because you know yourself the best.
Right. Exactly. So what would you recommend for people who are sort of just starting a wellness journey and looking to become more active? What's maybe the first step to take?
I think the first step is, what are you interested in? Do you like basketball? Do you like tennis? Do you like bike riding? What are you interested in? Do you like going to the gym? Do you like eating healthy? You need to figure out who you are, what you like, and where you want to take it, and where you want to go with it. The earlier, the better. So you get in, some good life habits. But yeah, you got to figure out who you are. And there are, like I stated before, and I'll write it out. There are plenty of organizations across the country that deal with wheelchair athletics. If there is a game that you want to play, somebody's playing it in your area. Yeah.
Great. What advice do you have for people who are looking to maybe get some of their friends or other loved ones involved? Like, what if you want to sort of create a team? Any recommendations for that?
I think if you live in an area that doesn't have something already set up, if you know enough people, men and women, that want to play a sport, again, you contact the parent organizations, National Wheelchair Basketball Association, United States Sled Hockey, United States Lacrosse, United States Tennis, and they will help you set up something. A great resource for New York is the Wheelchair Sports Federation. They're in Manhattan, but they are all New York encompassed. So if you're looking for something that you don't see, or if you're looking to do something that you don't see, Wheelchair Sports Federation, John Hamre, Hamre, is a great resource to start.
Okay, that's really good to know. Thank you. You said Hamre?
Correct.
I'm going to be including that in the chat, but also, like I mentioned before, we'll be including some of our adaptive sports resources in the follow-up email after the webinar is finished today. But it's always good to have more resources.
Yes, absolutely.
To know.
And you work off of each other. I might know something that Brian doesn't know. Brian's going to know something I don't know. We just work together. If you're, you have the same similar interests, you're going to be able to help each other. And that's what a great event like this today, this weekend here in Massachusetts is all about. It's all about resources and connecting and sharing, our love of the game.
I think we had a couple of programs too this past year. I know we did a wheelchair dance program, and Julia said she enjoyed partner dancing that Spiniti did, but she wants to know how often you both travel for sports.
Honestly, with the pandemic, the way it's been a while. So this, for me, is my first trip in 2 years, but I'd probably travel once or twice a month, depending on the time of the year. Again, I'm playing a lot of different things. So right now, currently, I have tennis, I have sled hockey, and I have lacrosse, and I have cycling. So yeah, it really depends on what's going on. But in today's world right now, things are slowly opening up where, in the past 2 years, nobody was doing anything. But now we're open. I'm playing wheelchair, sled hockey. I got lacrosse in 2 weeks. I got the bike ride in 3 weeks. So yeah, I'll travel as much as I need.
Do you normally have people that come out and support you, or you just kind of go?
Say again?
Do you have people that come out and support you and watch your games?
Yes, I do. Before the pandemic, we had played. Sorry, my coach was just yelling at me. Before the pandemic, we had played a tournament in Florida, and my whole family lives in Florida, so they were able to come down and see me. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I would like to know if you play lacrosse, and does lacrosse include equipment modifications?
Say again?
Do you play lacrosse, and does that include equipment modifications?
Lacrosse, we play on like a court surface as opposed to grass and dirt. We play 8-on-8 as opposed to, I think it's 11-on-11 or 10-on-10. And each of the sticks are the same size, as you know, there's no different size shafts. And the ball is actually deadened. So when it bounces, it just rolls. It doesn't take that crazy second bounce. All right. So those of us, you know, that are playing wheelchair lacrosse, we could easily scoop it up instead of chasing a wild, gigantic Super Bowl. You know?
So what are your favorite sports in terms of accessibility to people?
Basketball. Basketball is the easiest thing. You need a ball and a hoop. There are hoops all over America. You could buy a ball anywhere. That's the easiest game to adapt.
Okay.
And it's fun. It's 5-on-5. It's team. It's sportsmanship. Individual accomplishments. It hits all the bases. Softball can get kind of boring. Hockey is exciting. You know, somebody's always getting hit. You know, lacrosse is exciting. Somebody's always getting hit. Tennis, if you're playing doubles, I like doubles in tennis.
Singles is very hard in the wheelchair.
Yeah, playing singles tennis, because we play on a regulation court.
But you
in tennis, the only difference is we get a second bounce. So if you're playing singles, that's a pretty huge court to cover. So if you have a partner, makes things easier.
Right. Kirsten mentioned that in Phoenix, they have Ability 360, which is a gym for all disabled. They offer different classes for different sports, but have you ever heard of them? Do they have locations in other states? Do you know?
No, I don't know who they are. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, it sounds like a great agency.
That is awesome. No, I don't know who they are. I'm going to have to look that up myself. See if we can get something in New York.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the classes are a big one. If people know that they can be taking classes, it kind of provides the space for people to come.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you mentioned this before, but are you a coach, or have you been a coach or plan to coach at all?
Yes, I coach wheelchair basketball at the school that I teach at Viscardi. I have an elementary, middle school, high school, and an adult team. It's adapted wheelchair basketball. So instead of using a 10-foot hoop, we use a series of hoops that are either 2 feet, 4 feet, or 8 feet high. It's 5-on-5. The game that I have here at Viscardi is for people with in manual chairs and power chairs. So it's a mix of 2 different wheelchairs. So I've been coaching that for 29 years.
Wow.
Yeah, good times.
Do you have tips for people who want to start a basketball league, or maybe just a like pickup games if there's not any in the area? And do you recommend co-ed for that?
Yeah, co-ed is not a bad thing, because a lot of times you're not going to get enough men and enough women to field their own teams, a women's squad and a men's squad. So having a co-ed basketball team is not, that's what I grew up on, you know, on co-ed teams. Recently, they've tried women's, tried to make women's only teams. There are 16 colleges across America that have NCAA scholarship athletic programs for both men and women in wheelchair basketball. So they have enough resources and recruitment to make men and women's teams. But on the recreational community level, it's not enough to make, it's just not enough. So to have a co-ed basketball team is great. That, like I said, that's what I grew up on. That's what I know. And it works very well.
Wonderful. And how would you kind of go about that if you're maybe not as involved in a community of people with disabilities? How do you recommend spreading the word for a group of people that just wants to pick up basketball?
I think a group of people, I mean, you look at your local schools. If you want to, find a gym, a local community college, you go to your local governments. There's always money for this kind of stuff. People don't know it, but there's always money tucked away somewhere in a local government, and it just sits there until somebody asks about it. So if you're looking to start something, look at your local government, your town government, your city government, and talk to it. There's always going to be a disabled person's office, for lack of a better word, right? In your local government. Start there.
We have a question about osteoporosis and brittle bones. What are your recommendations for addressing that for people who want to pursue sports?
A lot of my students at Viscardi have OI. So we're very careful, we're very delicate, but they are as active as they can be, and they participate as much as they can. It is a delicate thing because, they can get hurt very easily. It's just something that, honestly, you just kind of go with the flow and see what that individual can do, what they can't do, what they want to do, what they don't want to do. And you just go from there. You just work it out. Because you don't want to put anybody in a bad situation.
Right. It's all about the individual, what their preferences are, what their comfort levels are.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you. That's great advice. Do you have anything else, any last minute thoughts for people as we're kind of wrapping up and taking the last few questions? Oh, and we do have another question in the chat. Which doctor would people approach if they needed to consult, especially about their participation in sports?
I have like 17 different doctors, but my main doctor that I would concern myself with is, now I kind of figured out basketball and all these other sports. I've done that on my own. I never really consulted anybody. But as regard to the skydiving and the scuba diving, because I have a VP shunt in my head, I talk to my neurosurgeon. But as for basketball, I mean, I've told my doctors that, hey, I'm doing this. I'm not asking for your advice. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm doing it. And I'm going to figure it out on my own with my team, with my teammates, with my coach. Just figure it out. And be as a self-advocate and have your self-limitations, right? And be open and honest about it. But if you want to talk to a doctor, go to your GP, your general practitioner. Go to somebody you like, go to somebody you trust. Ask them about it. A PT is great. An OT is great. All right, because they're supposed to know about this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. That's great. I think it's also, I mean, everyone gets to that point where they are deciding what they really want, right? And if you
Right.
really want to get active, right?
When there's a will, there's a way.
The best.
You could always find something. Wherever
Yeah.
you live, there's always an office for people with disabilities in your local government. You can go to any of these parent websites, the head of the organizations, the National Wheelchair Basketball Association, again and again, Wheelchair Sports Federation. They cover all sports all over New York. Would be a great resource.
Right. Great. All right, we're taking the last few questions here as we wrap up. We have about 10 minutes left with Joe, so make sure to get your questions in either the Q&A or the chat box. Joe and Brian, any parting thoughts with us as we sort of round our time out?
No?
Okay. Well, it's really awesome to just sort of hear all of the things that you both participate in and the activities that you pursue, especially coming out of COVID in a time where everything has been shut down, everyone has been shut in, and we've really, I feel as almost everyone has been sort of battling this, all of the sitting and being cooped up that we've had to endure through the pandemic. So personally, I find it, I'm grateful for hearing your experiences and hearing about the opportunities that you've taken advantage of. And I hope that other people can also feel the same way, that there are ways to get out there are ways to get moving, and
Yes, absolutely.
ways
Absolutely.
to be
Don't just sit around just wondering. Get out there and do something, even if it's at your local park. But definitely Wheelchair Sports Federation, if you're in the New York area, anywhere in New York, they will help you find a spot for any kind of sport.
Right. Well, and I mean, thank you for telling us that how it's changed your life too, because that really is, it does make a difference. If you find that community and you find that thing that you love, or
Right.
even just a lot of things, you don't have to be good at it. I think someone was mentioning before, you don't have to be the best athlete out there.
No, not everybody is LeBron James and Wayne Gretzky, but there's a way to get it done. Right? It's a lot better than sitting home watching Oprah eating bonbons.
Which is also okay too.
It's okay once in a while. Not according to our nutritionist stuff.
No.
No.
Movement is good, Well, thank you so much. I really want to thank you for taking the time, especially on your tournament day. So
thank you. Yeah, and my coach is looking at me. I gotta go play goalie.
Okay, good luck. Let us know how it turns out.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. It's great to see everybody. Great to talk to you guys. Wheelchair Sports Federation in New York. If you know of a sport you want to try, wheelchair athletic wise, they will help. John Hamry will help you.
And Stride Adaptive Sports too, for anyone local.
There you go.
Stride Adaptive. Okay, great. Thank you so much and good luck with your games.
Thank you. Peace.
Bye.